So we just heard from Felipe talking about the sort of shift from EFG Hermes. For you, this sort of wave of inclusion on the Saudi market, is it running out of steam? Do you expect it just to abate slightly going into the second half? And therefore, you can understand the EFG shift. Do you concur?
Now, Manus, there are two types of investors who invest in the Saudi market. There are the retail investors and the investors who invest on their own, and there are the funds. We need to take these two into consideration. Passive funds and active funds, they need to follow certain indices and they need to maintain certain positions in the markets. And these are mainly the main participants in the market that trigger the upward trend that we've seen. Now, for normal investors, they're going to look at valuations. And if we are to look at valuations, these are extremely high at this point in time in Saudi, and this is a reason for investors to start moving and shifting their investments from the Saudi market to other markets in the regions which are sort of undervalued, or they still see some sort of potential there to increase their investments in.
Marie, it's Tracy Alloway over in Hong Kong. We did have a pretty big news story for the UAE market hit the wires just yesterday. Bloomberg reporting that Amlak Finance is nearing a deal to restructure debt, something like $1.2 billion worth. That would be the second time it's actually done so. Is this a one-off story pertaining to a particular company, Amlak, or is over-indebtedness a broader theme for the UAE property market?
Now, with regards to Amlak in particular, it's the only Islamic mortgage company, or it's unique in its sector, in its services that it offers. So when we see such a news coming at this point in time with the restructuring, I do not see that it's a one-time or just related to one company. It's a trend that's been happening around in the region where companies have been restructuring their debts, they've been restructuring their management, they've been merging, acquiring one another and everything in an attempt to actually consolidate the business in a specific side of the daily things that we do. So Amlak, the way it is heading today, it's trying to comfort the investors that they are trying to find solutions and trying to not to default on their bonds or the repayments of their sukuk.
We also saw a little bit of news flow come through from Shua and ADFG. That statement came through approving the combination. What does that mean in terms of, what was the tone of that statement? What does it mean for the stock?
No, ADFG Shah haven't stopped staying in the spotlight for the past year. They've been trying to work on that deal forever. And now actually having it approved by the majority of the shareholders.
I feel a sense of relief from you in this.
Bearing in mind that the majority of shareholders is at this point ADFG for Shua, but we do not see that there's any sort of dilution to the ownership of the owners of Shua. On the contrary, it's something which is extremely positive, and investors should be looking forward to such type of merger or acquisition, whatever we want to call it, in whatever sense it is, because end of the day we are creating an entity which is huge, which is going to be providing different business lines to investors, whether through private equity, ADFG, or the capital markets of Shah Capital. So this is not something that would actually freak us out. On the contrary, again, in the same concept of consolidating the business lines, this comes perfectly in line, and we do look forward to the benefits that Shah investors are going to take or obtain from that merger.
Marie, I'm going to throw one more corporate news story at you, and that is Danna Gas starting share buybacks. Now, normally this would be viewed as something of a positive for stock investors, at least, but you argue that this might not be so good. It might be Danna basically trying to prop up its share price. Can you explain your thinking?
It's not that Danna is trying to pop up the prices, but on another side, Danna is the only person. Yeah, if we look at the inside management of the company, they know exactly what they're going through, and they know the valuations and the values of their stock. So at this point in time, Danna has been requesting the share buyback. It could be a reason to stop the stock from dropping, but on the other hand side, we need to look. This comes in line. We need to look as well to the other news that Danna has issued a few months ago about issuing new shares in the employment scheme program that they had to actually provide more benefits to their employees. So it doesn't have to be in the sense negative the way that probably I implied, but no, we do see as controls that are being kept in place in order to manage the situation in the company.